This is the fourth chapter of a book-length poem that I've recently completed called To Banquet with the Worthy Ethiopians, a memoir of life before the alphabet. And those of you who've had the fortitude to endure into the shank of the evening in the last three residencies may recall that the poem takes place in a summer camp where a young boy struggles to read a prose translation of the Iliad by W.H.D. Rouse. And he begins to suspect that the Trojan War, with all its slaughter and intrigue, is being reenacted by the adolescent boys in his bunk and camp. This chapter doesn't take place at the camp, but instead at the border between myth and time. It's a passage that we all undertake from childhood to adulthood, but it's also one that our culture undertook about 3,000 years ago by the agency of the alphabet and a man that we call Homer. So this chapter is called First Scrivener, and there's an epilogue, an epigram, I should say, an epigram from Samuel Butler, who wrote, given Homer's Trojan sympathies, he must have been a Trojan on his mother's side at least. First Scrivener. The summer of love, the summer cities burned, radiates like a monstrance many seasons, while cave figures and totems ruin the gate. Odysseus crashes to baton Thersites, and Agamemnon executes a Viet Cong, and Aphrodite swirls through People's Park, and Cassandra, napalmed, arms outstretched, runs naked into the living rooms of queens. Time bleeds and names metastasize, and always a girl flees a burning city. Detroit, Saigon, Moscow, Carthage, As generations pass like fallen leaves, a distant scion of Troy's burning girl sings in a foreign tongue on a windy coast. Scriveners say there never was a child. Time doesn't bleed and the song belongs to nobody or everyone, or else it's a cultural phenomenon. They say the Cassandra photograph is faked. In mid-trance, the child's eyes marble, watching his ancestral city burn. Scriveners colloquy and finally concede to name the child Homer, hostage to fate. In Rouse, Homer is a cipher. But in the summer of love, the summer cities burned, a child composes the roof tree of a house. Verse tunes his breath. I am of upturned face, caesura of sinew, the ache of denouement, pricked by a that triggers the next line. And within, angle of toe and knuckle, cant of head, each phrase devising its own signature. In the belly of a room, the child soars over the mountains and the wine-dark sea. Each plunge backward meets the thud of flesh on bone, spurring the thrust forward. Heels anchor, but the child has learned to quell time's surge with oceanic dream. Though he has never seen, he knows by heart each stone of the towers that he ghosts, the Scamander River and divine Mount Ida and the broad Troad rising from the sea. The sea itself, the child has learned to translate into his adopted tongue. Formulas hiss and ululate like surf. Lines self-conceive and welcome their own ebb. Here in a windy coast beneath the Pleiades, sculpted echoes of a burning city wash over faces wrapped with flame. though he's a nobody from nowhere. The child is now a man and almost famous on this windy coast with his long dark mane and twisted rocking. He has a way of notching a long vowel, floating in impossible interval, then reaching sharp-nailed fingers into the air to snap it off, leaving all agape, witness to the genesis of sound. Hayen, Culver, Mooney, the old guard, still headline the strip, and he's still hustling the wedding and funeral circuit. But he's a regular at the Trojan whore, and he's angling to open for the oracles. Timeless, they call Homer, as if he's run out of something important, or as if he were a principle or a god. But he shimmers in a tableau we trace like livid script, a skin-soft tapestry, exotic as a heart unsheathed, blossoming blood, or the thrill of a first takeoff or first kiss. Every sight's far into the morning, and every new utterance a child's. Scanning my burgeoning list of shame, I'm as much a cipher to myself as any ancient poet is to me. I close my eyes and watch him wandering back streets, drifting through the holiday bazaar, eyes bloodshot from another late-night gig, kibitzing, pinching melons, guzzling ouzo, fingering brass amulets and spearheads until he veers into the back alley where they brew clove tea with a tincture of opium. Under the bauble-tasseled awning, Homer enters the outer precincts of time among apprentice soothsayers and third-class stargazers, and it is there he sees it, glinting in makeshift light, festooned with arabesques and scarabs, a silvery casket. He eyes it, fingers it, regards coldly the unearthly gleam. Behind the counter, the Phoenician shopkeep shuffles. "Alphabet," he says, inscribing air. "Good price for great poet." Homer considers the oiled snake-braided beard, pockets his hands, shakes his long mane. No thanks. The child inside him knows. Bars and squiggles can't translate the surf. Thumb-cramping shapes can never matter. Syllables and silence, poise and pitch, elements of the craft that plies the sea between the burning city and his tongue. Hieroglyphs 2.0. That's all this is. A game for griots, Shanakis, and Guzlars. But that night, as Homer's grunge band sets up in another rickety shebeen, he broods over the glossy Phoenician toy he passed over. It nags. After all, this voice of love and burning he has trained untold seasons in huts of corbelled stone to attune with his whole body. Is it real? Inside his head? The sculpted echo of a burning city? What if tonight, in mid-trance, head-canted, rocking and chanting verse, Homer's marble eyes suddenly swim open and he beholds his audience? No rapt acolytes, yahoos swilling moonshine into grisly beards, shouting, slurring, gesturing the aegis. His holy burning chant is just muzak. What if tonight, after his first touch of the alphabet cellophane, Homer sees the voice he listened to embodied? A girl raving in a foreign tongue, skin blistered, auburn hair alight. Surf's utterance would quaver, the burning voice dissolve to tinnitus. Homer swallows, squinting across time. If this is that night, if this is the summer Homer's voice's skin finally burns to a charred nub before his eyes, no wonder his rocking freezes, his chant mutes. And if not the next morning, than some morning Scriveners can't pin down, Homer thought, why not? I'll give them something to love. A city that never burns, and they'll pay. So he hurried back through the sweating streets and haggled with the Phoenician and ported the application home under his cloak and tore open the silvery package and laid the glittering characters on his desk. And from that day, the poet never again listened, chanting with his rocking body. Thank you.